the value of the high standards for life safety issues in American K-12 school construction become readily apparent. Those who occupy our buildings typically do not have an appreciation for just how much goes into designing and building safer facilities in the United States. Clearly, then, America's building codes, architects, engineers, and school officials have prevented many deaths through school design, even when the average American fails to recognize these worthy accomplishments. To build on the demonstrable success in reducing mortality rates in American schools, we will explore just a few examples of concepts that can be utilized to design safer, more productive, and more pleasant learning and work environments. We will focus on concepts that move beyond code requirements in most parts of the country, and on areas that can dramatically improve the safety of school facilities. First, effective involvement of law enforcement, emergency management, fire service, and security officials in the design process will usually pay big dividends in the enhancement of life safety in the final design. When architects are willing to help public safety practitioners understand specifics of architectural drawings and listen to their feedback, they will typically find that meetings with these knowledgeable personnel will not only be productive, but can help prevent major problems with school design. Public safety practitioners can help identify and correct problems that are often missed in the design phase. For example, I was asked by a colleague who is an architect and a security expert to look over his shoulder on a project to build a middle school in Alabama. He was evaluating the design from a security standpoint and wanted me and one of my colleagues to evaluate the design from an emergency management perspective. We quickly noticed that a number of special needs classrooms were sited on the third floor of a wing with nearly identical floor plans for each of the 3 floors. When we asked him to find out if there would be many students with mobility challenges occupying these classrooms, he checked with his client architect and learned that it was anticipated that quite a number of students in wheelchairs would in fact be occupying these rooms. The client was most eager to implement our suggestions to move these classrooms to the ground floor to make emergency egress safer and faster, and was impressed that we found this rather obvious problem so quickly. In reality, it is doubtful that a local fire department representative would have missed what we noticed either. Involvement of public safety practitioners can also improve the survivability of occupants in natural disasters. For example, if a representative of the local emergency management agency is able to suggest ways to improve tornado sheltering areas, the likelihood of a mass casualty loss can be reduced. A particular area of focus should be on emergency warning and communication systems that are relevant to area hazards. Most school officials and architects have legitimate concerns relating to exposure to civil liability in school construction projects. This is a rational fear in our highly litigious society. Performing work as a school safety malpractice expert witness consultant has reaffirmed my belief that there is no shortage of people who will actively seek a reason to sue others in our country. An additional benefit from involving area public safety practitioners in the design process is that it can help reduce liability exposure of a non-public school, school system, or architectural firm. Incorporating this approach in the design process is one more tangible piece of evidence that the school organization and the firm have acted in a reasonable and responsible manner in attempting to address life safety issues. In most areas of the country, this type of involvement exceeds any legal requirement, demonstrating that the parties involved in the design process have gone above and beyond what is required of them. In addition, as the previous examples demonstrate, this approach can reduce the chances of serious injury and death, which are often the most effective ways to prevent serious litigation in the first place. An important consideration for involvement of public safety officials in the design process is to work to keep the feedback from security and law enforcement officials from becoming out of balance in the process. The intensive media focus on multiple victim school shootings in this country has created an inaccurate and dangerous perspective in our nation that school shootings are on the rise. In reality, evaluations by trained researchers have consistently demonstrated that the K-12 school homicide rate in the United States has actually decreased considerably over the past 30 years. One negative result of this distortion of reality is that many public safety officials and educators have an out-of-balance emphasis on what are commonly referred to as active shooter situations. These rare but catastrophic mass casualty events involve one or more individuals who carry out multiple victim school shootings. While any K-12 public, private, charter, independent, or parochial school building design should certainly consider this very real and viable threat to any school, it should not dominate our thinking when schools are designed. An overemphasis on active shooter situations can result in missed opportunities to address far more common and often equally deadly risks for our schools, such as tornadoes, hazardous materials incidents in or near schools, as well as much more common situations such as aggressive individuals in the main office area and medical emergencies. Emphasizing the importance of an all-hazards approach and actively soliciting feedback from fire service and emergency management professionals as well as from law enforcement and security professionals, is especially important so that concerns such as hazardous materials incidents, natural disasters, fire, medical emergencies, and other life and death situations are also considered. This is prudent and normally productive. Protecting staff and students from deadly chemicals released during a tanker truck or rail disaster can be just as important as protecting them from a gunman. The next area we will explore involves crime prevention through environmental design, again commonly referred to as CPTED. This is a powerful and proven approach to help reduce the risk associated with crime, as well as a reduction in the perceived level of fear of crime by students, staff, and parents. CPTED is an evidence-based approach which has been documented by extensive research and assessment over decades. CPTED offers a number of benefits over more overt and sometimes aggressive approaches to school security. First, CPTED is a relatively passive approach in terms of not only how people perceive it, but in terms of day-to-day utilization, which generally places fewer daily operational burdens on faculty and staff in contrast to some other approaches. Next, CPTED improves school security while also creating a warm and friendly environment using three primary approaches. The first approach is referred to as natural access control. A common example of natural access control would be a school entryway design that makes people enter through the main office as they come into the school. Second, territoriality. Territoriality in this sense means ways to connect people to the place of school in positive ways to create a sense of ownership. A common example of this approach would be beautiful murals that create a distinct connection between staff, students, parents, and the school. The final approach for CPTED involves something known as natural surveillance. While security cameras can be very effective in improving school security, their preventive value is typically highly overrated, as evidenced by a compelling number of school shootings, abductions of students, and other events where perpetrators were clearly aware that they were being filmed prior to the commission of a crime. In contrast, natural surveillance involves building design features that enhance the ability of people to see and hear one another. This approach often creates unease among people with criminal intent because they know it increases their chances of detection. At the same time, legitimate users of space often feel more comfortable even when they cannot put their finger on why it is they feel safer. I have simulated thefts of thousands of laptop computers, LCD projectors, vehicles, and even students from schools across the nation at the request of our clients over the years. This is done in a non-threatening manner to test their actual level of security. I've never once been stopped by anyone watching a security camera. While security cameras have some deterrent value, are excellent investigative tools, and when used properly can significantly improve access control, I place at least as much, if not more, emphasis on improved natural surveillance as a means to prevent and to stop criminal and other inappropriate behaviors in schools. While I've never been stopped because someone detected me via a security camera, I have been detected by students and staff who were able to see me and to determine that my actions appeared suspicious. Combining carefully implemented security camera equipment with excellent natural surveillance offers a powerful deterrent approach. Another important aspect of safe school design involves features to help mitigate against statistically common forms of school violence and aggression. Though similar to the concept of prevention, mitigation is a distinct concept that involves our efforts to minimize the impact of events that we either cannot prevent, such as a tornado, or an incident that occurs in spite of our efforts to prevent it. Here are a few examples. School entryways. School entry designs that create an ability to slow or stop an aggressor can prove to be invaluable. Following a keynote presentation recently, a woman approached me and related an incident where a woman signed two children into the school one morning after the late bell had sounded. As soon as the children had left the school office to go to class, the woman excitedly reported to the school employee that her ex-husband was in the vehicle in the school parking lot with a loaded gun. He had threatened to kill her if she did not bring the children to the school following an altercation between the couple. The school implemented a lockdown and called 911. The man was arrested by responding police while he was attempting to force his way into the main entryway with the gun. The man had figured out that the school had implemented a lockdown and was apparently attempting to locate and kill his ex-wife. Because the school maintained a secure entryway using a security camera and buzzer system, they were able to deny the man access without having to lock the front doors in person. The man was beating on the windows when the officers arrived. As this case illustrates, windows at such entryways should be treated with a protective laminate to slow or stop an aggressor who may try to enter the school by smashing a window to defeat a locked door. Office designs are another common opportunity for safer schools. A far more common problem for both public and private elementary, middle, and high schools involves aggressive persons in the main office area. When conducting safety, security, and emergency preparedness audits for schools, I utilize custom-filmed school crisis scenarios to depict specific crisis situations and thus evaluate how well school employees and their work areas have been prepared for a wide range of crisis situations by asking the employee to tell me what they would do if the event occurred. The most consistently challenging scenario for school officials to respond to appropriately involves an angry parent who is brandishing a pocket knife, hammer, or some other type of weapon that is not a firearm. Even and often especially in schools that have gone to elaborate lengths to plan, train, drill, and otherwise prepare for active shooter situations, school officials are usually completely stumped by an angry person with a pocket knife. Though this type of scenario is far more common in real life than gunmen in a school, only about 1 in 10 school employees can think of how they would handle this type of situation satisfactorily. Proper office design can dramatically improve the ability of front office staff to safely resolve situations involving angry, intoxicated, and/or dangerously mentally ill aggressors in the main office suite. As mentioned before, these situations occur far more often than aggressors with firearms in schools. As a few examples of helpful design concepts, high and difficult to vault front counter designs can buy precious seconds for staff to retreat to an area of safety. A rapidly securable office area with windows that are difficult to smash through, combined with a telephone and an alternate microphone for the public address system so a lockdown can be announced from a safe place, can make these types of situations much easier for school staff to manage. This was evidenced by the response from a school receptionist in a rural Pennsylvania district to this type of scenario just last year. Without batting an eye, she told me quickly in a step-by-step fashion how she would hit a button that would electronically lock the doors to her work area while automatically activating a panic alarm that rings in 2 different office areas, while she would retreat to a prepared office area and lock the door to create a barrier between her and the aggressor. An administrator at the school told me that these features cost less than $2,000 during a recent renovation. As an optimistic response time for state police to arrive at this school for a life and death emergency would be nearly 30 minutes on average, this could someday prove to be a very well spent $2,000. Classroom locks are another consideration. There's been a considerable concern over the types of locks installed in classrooms, offices, and work areas in schools. New construction projects and some renovation projects are a practical time to address this concern. Selecting locks that allow staff to lock the door from inside the room while allowing for proper emergency egress is recommended. Of course, fire codes must be followed. As mentioned early in the session, restroom safety can be dramatically improved by selecting designs which eliminate doors. Other common concerns, such as smoking in student restrooms, can also be more easily addressed with this approach. Further improvement can be achieved by locating sinks and mirrors in the hallway in a recess located between the boys' and girls' restroom entrances. This design creates far better student supervision while also reducing the cost of each pair of restrooms. Careful selection of electric hand dryers is needed to avoid the creation of excessive noise in hallways for this approach. There are a number of concepts to improve emergency communications that are much easier and less expensive to incorporate during new construction and renovation projects. Money and efforts to improve emergency communications can be one of the wisest investments should any crisis with mass casualty implications ever arise. For example, while money spent on walk-through metal detectors may prevent a single type of event, such as a weapons assault, external public address capability can reduce the chances that mass casualty losses will occur from an approaching tornado, hazardous materials incident in the community, or an armed aggressor. Many options now exist for internal as well as emergency communication systems. Classroom telephones, intercom systems, and other approaches can be selected for today's schools. Regardless of the options selected, it is crucial that building administrators have the ability to contact all classrooms and work areas instantly, and that employees can rapidly contact the main office. There are also technologies that move beyond this type of capability. For example, classroom amplification systems that have been proven to raise test scores exist that also allow a teacher to press a button on a pendant which will not only alert the front office that they have a problem, but will allow the front office to hear what is happening at the teacher's location. Imagine the value of this type of system if a teacher is confronted with an armed aggressor, medical emergency, or an out-of-control student. When the front office can hear the conversation, appropriate assistance can be rapidly dispatched to help the teacher address the problem. Another recent advance